Welcome back to my channel, the place where shiny celebrity pictures don't last long under bright lights. So, make sure you click subscribe and watch the other deep dive videos on the channel, because this one gets really messy really fast. Brooklyn Beckham's ex-girlfriends are finally talking, and what they're saying could turn the whole Beckham family image upside down. These women said there was pressure, control, and quiet warnings to stay silent about what really happened behind the scenes. And now, years later, those stories are starting to come out, shaking up the perfect image the Beckham family has worked hard to keep safe. Fans were already giving side-eye to the public fighting between Brooklyn, his wife Nicola Peltz, and his famous parents, David Beckham and Victoria Beckham. But this new stuff takes things to a whole different level. According to these exes, this goes way deeper than awkward family dinners or wedding drama. They're pointing to emotional pressure, quiet influence, and a feeling that was anything but normal. And this isn't just about Nicola versus Victoria or one messy moment in the spotlight. The claims suggest a long-running pattern of silence and control tied to getting too close to the Beckham inner circle. What's even crazier is that these stories didn't start recently. Several exes say the cracks showed up years ago, long before the fancy wedding, the mysterious posts, or Brooklyn stepping away from his parents publicly. One of the first whispers came from a girlfriend most people forgot about, dating all the way back to Brooklyn's teenage years. She's come forward now, and her story raises serious questions about how tightly controlled Brooklyn Beckham's world really was. She described a young Brooklyn already overwhelmed by fame, constantly worried, always on edge, and feeling like he was being watched around the clock. This wasn't occasional attention. It was non-stop pressure day and night, with no real escape. The paparazzi weren't just showing up once in a while, either. According to her, they were everywhere almost every single day like clockwork. What scared her most wasn't just how often they appeared, but how exact it all felt. They always knew where Brooklyn was going to be before he even got there. His routines, his routes, his daily movements, nothing felt private. This wasn't random photographers getting lucky. Someone clearly had access to information about his schedule. And when she was asked if that access could have come from people closest to him, including his parents who control much of his time, she didn't answer at all. No denial, no explanation, just complete silence. And that pause said a lot. And here's where it gets even deeper. She's not the only ex saying this. Another former girlfriend, who spent nearly a full year inside the Beckham family world, backed up the same claims. And her experience went even further. She wasn't just dating Brooklyn. She was living the full Beckham lifestyle, sitting front row at fashion shows, wearing Victoria Beckham's designs, joining fancy family trips, and bonding closely with Brooklyn's younger siblings, like she was already locked in as part of the family. From the outside, it looked like a perfect love story. All glamour, red carpets, and picture-perfect smiles. But behind the scenes, she says things were quietly falling apart fast. The tension wasn't just between her and Brooklyn Beckham either. It ran straight through his family. And according to her, those cracks were already there long before Nicola Peltz ever entered the picture. When she finally considered speaking up, it wasn't about dragging anyone or chasing attention. She just wanted to tell the truth about what life inside that world actually felt like. But before she could say a word publicly, she claims messages started coming and warning her to stay quiet. Not friendly advice, not casual suggestions, straight warnings. The message was blunt and clear. Stay silent or deal with the fallout. That pressure hit hard enough that she backed off completely, and her story vanished before anyone ever heard it. According to people close to her, what she wanted to share back then would have flipped the public story upside down. For years, fans believe the tension around the Beckham family began with Nicola, but her account paints a very different picture. She claims Brooklyn had been struggling long before that, feeling boxed in and disconnected years before he ever said, "I do." And this is where things start to feel unsettling, because once you hear multiple ex-girlfriends from totally different phases of Brooklyn's life, all describing the same patterns, pressure, silence, and image control, it stops sounding like coincidence. It starts sounding like a system, something deeply embedded and carefully kept going. But here's where it turns truly jaw-dropping. There was reportedly a plan in motion to stop a major expose before it ever saw the light of day. One of Brooklyn Beckham's former girlfriends was allegedly preparing to give a tell-all interview, Not a hit job, but her first-hand account of what she witnessed from inside that world. She wanted to speak about the real family dynamics, the tension no one saw, and how certain stories were quietly shaped long before the public ever caught on. This wasn't gossip. It was her lived experience, and she was ready to put it out there. But just days before the interview was set to happen, everything shut down. According to insiders, the pressure suddenly became intense. She reportedly received messages that weren't vague or subtle, but firm warnings making it clear that speaking out would come with consequences. The risk felt too high, and backing out became the only safe option. And just like that, silence won again. What makes this even crazier is how closely this mirrors what Brooklyn himself has publicly accused his parents of doing. In a rare and explosive statement, he claimed his parents had controlled press stories for as long as he could remember. He alleged stories were planted, appearances were staged, and protecting the Beckham family image often mattered more than real connections. Now, those same claims are being echoed by his ex-girlfriends. But from the outside looking in, they're saying this grip on image didn't just exist behind closed doors. It shaped their experiences too, quietly affecting their choices, their voices, and their lives inside that tightly controlled spotlight. But it doesn't stop there. Because while Brooklyn Beckham's exes are peeling back pieces of the past, Nicola Peltz is playing a completely different game. She's not doing interviews. She's not issuing statements. She's moving quietly, carefully, and with precision. Her tool of choice, the like button. Nicola has been subtly liking comments that suggest Brooklyn had every reason to distance himself from his famous parents. Comments hinting that his decision wasn't reckless, but necessary. Some even imply she's backing messages claiming Brooklyn finally found peace, support, and real love outside the Beckham bubble. Each like on its own looks harmless, but stacked together, they tell a much louder story. It comes off like a quiet signal saying, "We're not making this up. There's more going on, and we're done pretending everything's fine." And then there's the timing, which is what really has people talking. Every time Victoria Beckham lands a major public honor or career spotlight, Brooklyn and Nicola suddenly post loved-up videos or romantic clips, presenting a united front for the world to see. To some fans, it looks like pure love and loyalty, but to others, it feels like a silent rebellion, carefully placed and impossible to ignore. And this is where public opinion starts to split hard. While Brooklyn frames himself as a hurt son finally breaking free and speaking his truth, critics argue the strategy may have backfired. Instead of cracking the Beckham family image, some believe the controversy has only made that brand look stronger than ever. All of this only highlights just how powerful, controlled, and unshakable the Beckham brand really is. Victoria Beckham in particular has built her image on discipline, precision, and absolute control. She's not just a designer or a former pop star. To many, she represents calculated composure at its highest level. So, when Brooklyn Beckham made his accusations, a lot of fans didn't see them as shocking revelations. Instead, they felt like confirmation of what people had quietly suspected for years. Control wasn't a surprise. The scale of it was. But here's the twist that changes everything. This isn't just Brooklyn speaking out anymore. It's also the women who were in his life long before Nicola Peltz ever entered the picture. These are exes with nothing to gain and everything to lose. Women who stayed silent for years and are only now letting pieces of their story slip out. And if even a fraction of what they're hinting at is true, then this Beckham family fallout didn't come out of nowhere. It looks more like years of quiet tension, pressure, and control slowly stacking up until the silence finally cracked. Insiders say the most shocking details still haven't surfaced yet. And that's what makes the situation so explosive. Not just what's been said, but what hasn't. Because despite the claims, the warnings, the canceled interviews, and multiple exes speaking out, one thing stands out loud and clear. The Beckham family has yet to offer any detailed response at all. No direct rebuttal, no explanations, just silence. And that silence is starting to hit harder than any statement ever could. The Beckham family response hasn't been loud or emotional. It's been quiet, calculated, and extremely deliberate. Instead of firing back, they've kept everything polished and professional, liking supportive comments from longtime friends, showing public loyalty to their inner circle, and making sure every appearance sends the same message. Stability, tradition, and strength. No emotional outbursts, no messy clapbacks, just icy control. One of the clearest signals came when David Beckham publicly showed support for a close family friend, the same person mentioned in Brooklyn's wedding-related claims. The message couldn't have been clearer. The alliances are intact, and the inner circle isn't cracking. To some people, it looked like pure class under pressure, graceful, mature, untouchable. But to others, it felt like a quiet power move, a subtle reminder that the Beckhams still run their empire with precision and authority. And that's where the tension really starts to boil. Because if Brooklyn Beckham and Nicola Peltz are positioning themselves as the truth tellers, the ones breaking free and calling things out, then the Beckhams are clearly choosing the opposite role. They're presenting themselves as calm, composed figures who refuse to get dragged publicly, the unshaken institution, the grown-ups in the room who stay silent while chaos swirls around them. And here's why that silence actually matters. Insiders claim it's not about ignoring noise or brushing off gossip. It's about setting a precedent, one that reminds everyone watching exactly who still holds the power. If even one of Brooklyn Beckham's exes speaks openly and isn't shut down, it could crack everything wide open. The floodgates could follow fast. Others might come forward, and suddenly the carefully built mythology of the Beckham brand wouldn't be rewritten by tabloids or journalists, but by the people who actually lived inside it. That's why those alleged warning messages sent to ex-girlfriends carry so much weight. These weren't random online rumors or anonymous comments. These were real women with real experiences who seriously considered speaking out and then abruptly pulled back. According to insiders, at least one of them didn't stay silent out of loyalty to Brooklyn at all. She stepped back because she felt something much bigger looming over the situation. This wasn't about being polite or respectful. It was about fear. Fear of what could happen if they talked. Fear of legal pressure, reputation damage, or being quietly shut out of powerful social circles. And when you're dealing with one of the most influential celebrity families in the world, that kind of pressure doesn't even need to be spelled out. The message doesn't have to say, "Don't talk." The silence already feels like the safest move. And this is what makes Brooklyn's position so complicated. Reports don't fully line up. Some insiders claim the pressure came from people connected to him, while others say Brooklyn actually pushed back against attempts to keep his exes quiet. There were even whispers about a formal silence agreement being suggested and refused. And if that's true, it adds yet another layer to a situation that already feels far bigger than a family disagreement. If that's true, it paints Brooklyn Beckham as someone stuck right in the middle, torn between loyalty to his powerful parents and protecting the women who once stood by him. People close to him say this internal tug of war isn't new at all. They claim it's been building for years. Long before Nicola Peltz, long before marriage, and way before the public drama ever spilled online, Brooklyn has often been seen as the odd one out in the Beckham lineup. Not in a shocking or rebellious way, but as someone who never fully fit the family's perfectly polished mold. His father, David Beckham, the global sports icon. His mother, Victoria Beckham, the fashion powerhouse. Their brand is flawless, disciplined, and tightly built. But Brooklyn has always seemed like he was searching for his own lane. He tried photography. He jumped into cooking. He explored creative projects, always chasing an identity that wasn't just another extension of the Beckham brand. And every move he made got picked apart. Every project, every photo, every career step was compared to the legendary Beckham standard. When success didn't land instantly, the pressure only ramped up higher. Now add relationships into that kind of environment. Suddenly it wasn't just about love or connection anymore. It was about living under a microscope where every choice felt judged, managed, and quietly controlled. Every girlfriend who stepped into Brooklyn Beckham's life wasn't just dating a guy. She was walking straight into a global brand. Every argument had the potential to become a headline. Every emotional moment risked turning into a PR situation. Some girlfriends managed it smoothly. Some cracked under the pressure. And others are now saying that what looked glamorous on the outside was actually tense, uncomfortable, and exhausting behind closed doors. And that's where everything circles back to Nicola Peltz, because her role in the story is nothing like the women before her. Nicola didn't just grow up around fame. She was born into power. Her family already holds massive wealth and influence, which means they never needed celebrity validation or the Beckham name to feel secure or protected. That alone flipped the power dynamic completely. For the first time, Brooklyn wasn't the one bringing status into the relationship. He was marrying into a family that couldn't be managed through access, pressure, or reputation control. And according to people watching closely, that's where the real fracture began. Nicola didn't just become Brooklyn's wife. She pulled him out of a system where the Beckhams had always set the rules. Once that shift happened, tension that had been buried for years started resurfacing fast. This time, there was no clean PR fix. No carefully staged photo ops to smooth things over. That's why every move Nicola makes online, even a single like or a subtle caption, is being dissected, because many believe those quiet signals are saying far